Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Vivian Chen, author of the Noodle Shop Mysteries. My obligatory plug for today, Murder Lo Mein, book number 3 in the Noodle Shop Mysteries. I'm still on my little wave of excitement talking about the mystery series. I want to just quickly thank everybody that has participated so far. I'm having a lot of fun reading your questions. Like I said, I am going to do videos in the near future about some of the things that you asked to elaborate more. By the time that this comes out, which will be Thursday, the first two winners will have their books in the mail. So I apologize. Last week kind of got away from me. Things have been really crazy. Some stuff I can't talk about just yet, but hopefully soon. So yeah, I'm a little bit behind, but we're getting there. So today, book 3, okay, disclaimer. I feel like at some parts this may get a little bit emotional. I'm a very passionate person when I feel, a way about something. And when I was reviewing the book and thinking about what am I going to say, it brought up a lot of memories and stuff that I've dealt with in my own past. So I wanted to talk about that, but I also realized that it kind of amps me up a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see how today goes. So I will do it like I always do. I read the back synopsis, which I mentioned in one of my first videos. This is actually what you use as part of the proposal when you submit your series to a publisher. So I'll read over that and then I'll give my own thoughts. The deadline for this video will be April 24th. You have until 12 p.m. Eastern to leave a comment on this video. You must be a subscriber and you must be a U.S. resident in order to qualify. I use commentpicker.com and I upload the link onto their website and it collects all of the comments. Everybody gets one shot. So if you leave multiple comments, it will not give you another entry. So when I put it in there, it generates, and selects a randomly chosen person, which is fun and I like. So let's get into it. This, it's so weird. Like, I haven't really thought about these books a whole lot, like, because I'm so far into the series that the ones that I've just written or the ones that just came out recently, they're in my mind. They're fresher, so I have to, like, sometimes I look at these, I'm like, I wrote this? I want to say, let's take a quick look. I'm going to put my readers on, y'all. Okay, so it came out in 2019. All right, so the little toppy part. Everybody agrees that the food at Holy Noodle House is delicious, unless it happens to be deadly. Oh Lord, this is the kind of day I'm having. All right, Lana Lee's stake in her family's Chinese restaurant is higher than ever now that she's been made manager. So when she enters Holy into Cleveland's best noodle contest, Lana makes it her business to win at all costs. But when a local food critic receives a threatening note in a fortune cookie and is later found dead, face down in a bowl of lo mein, all bets are off. Da, da, da. Now, along with her sweet and sour boyfriend, Detective Adam Trudeau, Lana decides to take matters into her own hands and digs into the lives of everyone involved in the contest. But when she receives an ill-fated fortune, Lana realizes that in order to save the reputation of her restaurant, she needs to save herself first. Huzzah. You knew I was going to say huzzah. Come on. So I'm trying to match my shirts with the cover. This is the bluest that I have. And I don't know if later on the other colors that are on the covers will work. But if you'll notice, the books I did so far match. Okay, so let's get into it. So it's a noodle contest. I wanted to, when I thought of Murder Lo Mein, what could I do with that? And I was like, noodles, obviously have something to do. And I'm like, noodle contest. And I felt like it was an easy leap. And, the whole joke around Holy Noodle House is the fact that it's proclaimed, self-proclaimed, that it's the #1 noodle shop in Cleveland. So to enter this contest, and like the year before they came in like #2, so it's like trying to get that to work, to be legit the #1, noodle house in Cleveland. So in the book is the introduction of Shanghai Donuts. Shanghai Donuts goes into the now vacant spot at next door to Holy Noodle House. And that's how the book opens. Lana's like, oh geez, this is a fate worse than death, because her favorite thing is moving in next door. So the funny thing about Shanghai Donuts, this is the one time in my series that it's actually based off of something specific. I talked about in some previous videos that a lot of the things that I create are mixtures of things. I kind of take a bunch of similar things and put them together. So like Megan, for example, is not one person. A lot of people think that she's my best friend in real life. And I do take from our friendship, like the generalization of what it is like to be bonded to somebody and they know everything about you. You're super close with them. You've spent a considerable amount of time with this person, but it is a generalization. So Megan is not actually one person. Megan is the concept. And a lot of people think, my best friend's blonde. So a lot of people think that it is her, which makes complete sense for people to think that. But I really did like the blonde thing to contrast, because you have an Asian American woman, and I wanted to show the differences between the two, the all-American girl and then the mixed Asian. So that's kind of where that went. And I do that with everything. Detective Trudeau is not one person. Kimmy Tran, she's not one person. Betty Lee is not really my mother. So it's kind of like a mix. But Shanghai Donuts and Mama Wu are based off of somebody that I met in passing. So in another lifetime, I used to be a trainer for U.S. Bank Home Mortgage. And while I was towards the end of my career there, they were sending us out to Irvine, California, to teach another department how to do our job. I really didn't realize that we were being replaced at the time. It was supposed to be what I thought was an extension. But either way, I don't have any regrets. I don't have any remorse. I don't have any animosity towards anybody, because I believe that it was part of my journey. I would probably have worked at U.S. Bank for the rest of my life. It was a very good company to work for. They had a pension plan, which is very rare to find in this day and age. And I really enjoyed the work that I did. I worked for the default mortgage department, and I trained the other default departments on how to do certain policies and procedures and stuff like that. And I would have to hold trainings and teach, the other employees, like, these are the laws around housing, et cetera. These are the updates and whatever. And so they were extending our branch in Irvine, and I was fortunate enough to be able to go on business trips and experience Irvine like I probably would not have been able to experience it on my own. And I'm very thankful for that. And there was a lot of inspiration that came from those trips. I fell in love with that city. I love Irvine so much. It gives me goosebumps just even talking about it. There are two places out of the places that I've been so far in the United States that really spark inspiration. And I love the culture and the overall vibe, so Nashville is the other one. But Irvine, I fell in love with Irvine. It's a beautiful place, and there's a lot of difference out there than there is from here. There's a lot of, it's more of a melting pot, I will say that. When I got off the plane, I was like, wow, there's so many Asian people here, and there's 3 of us in Cleveland, okay? And that's I'm being facetious, of course, but you know, where I grew up is very different. So, I was very inspired while I was there. And one of the things that happened was I found a donut shop. Well, actually, the girl that was my boss and is one of my closest friends, I think she might have found it. And she was like, "Hey, let's go here." We got lost. We got lost on the same road like 3 times. It was in this like little plaza that was off a main road, but it faced the back of the road. So you couldn't see it from the road, but the GPS kept telling us it's there. We finally found it. It was a cute little donut shop called Donut Depot. And the lady, she was so nice. And when we ordered donuts, she would stick little donut holes in the bag for us as like a treat. I loved her. And I loved that donut shop. What struck me as funny, and I had said it to my friend at the time, I said, it's really odd. Like, it's named Donut Depot. And I feel like it's, you know, it's owned by Asians. It should be called something like Shanghai Donuts. I'm just being funny. I make all kinds of Asian jokes all the time. So she laughed and she's like, oh my God, that would be amazing. And that's like perfectly named. So from then on, when we would go to Donut Depot, we called it Shanghai Donuts. I never knew at that time, this was before I wrote the Noodle Shop Mysteries. I never knew at that time that it would end up becoming something in my book. The lady was so nice. She was technically retired and they had just opened the shop as like kind of, you know, like something to go to work. And I feel like it's very culture appropriate, you know, like to do this. And it's like not a low investment, but like working for yourself, making a little bit of extra money. You get what I'm trying to say. So I decided to put Shanghai Donuts in my books and I love it. So that is, you know, a lot of people ask me like, is this real or is that real or what is this or what is that? And a lot of the times it's just a mixture, but Shanghai Donuts is one of those things that is like it is a real place. It's just called something totally different. And I loved going there. It made my morning. I love the donuts that are shaped like eights. They have a name, but I can't think what they're called. And they have powdered sugar on them. Oh, they're so good. So anyways, that's where that came from. The other thing that I was doing when I was writing this book is we're stacking problems for Lana. We are creating, okay, it's a kind of like a little bit of a silly one, right? Like, oh no, a donut shop has opened. There are worse fates. But, you know, for her, this is like great. Now I have to extra worry about my waistline. The other thing that I did was I added a character named Freddie Yun. And this was intentional because now it's official that her and Detective Trudeau are a couple. And there's always that, I mean, it's a trope for a reason. When it rains, it pours. There's always that thing that when you know, get into a good relationship, there can be people that randomly come out of the woodwork. You know, people, especially after having a not great relationship like Adam and Lana both had before meeting each other. There's this doubt of like, am I committing too quickly? Or like, what if I'm making the wrong decision? Or like, we don't really have things in common. You know, I mean, Adam and Lana are very different people. And by me saying this, I don't feel like I'm ruining anything for later books, but you watch them grow together, right? They have some things in common, but not everything. And so enter this man who shows up out of nowhere, and he's more Lana's style. He's somebody she would have went out with before. And then it's kind of like, well, now, great, now that's a problem too. So you see her in this book really assessing her new relationship, wondering, is she doing the right thing? Is she going the right way? We don't know how she feels in this. What will it how will it impact? And so those were dynamics I wanted to explore. Um, I feel like a lot of people struggle with that, especially when they're unsure of their life is not taking the direction that they wanted to go. And that is exactly what has happened to Lana. We see her comparing her new life to her old life, to, wondering like, well, if I wanted to be like this office lady, and now I'm running my parents' restaurant. I'm the manager. What? And then you don't know, well, what does that mean for the rest of the things in my life? Nothing is going to go as planned. Like, you kind of worry about that. And I wrote Lana in her late 20s, and I feel like, I also went through those things in my life. And you kind of experience them more than once. As you transition through. For, if I have any younger readers that ever worry about, like, where is my life going? This is not as what I planned. Don't worry about it, because it's going to happen again. So, just let that make you feel like, okay, you're going to get through it, because it's not a one-time deal, whatever it may be. But that's kind of like an aside. So I wanted to really showcase that in these books, that Lana is like learning how to trust herself. Like I said in my previous video, like, she hasn't other voices coming at her. She has Megan telling her, like, we need to do this, or Kimmy being like, come on, snap out of it. She's being encouraged to look into these situations that keep happening, even though she knows it's about her finding her voice at the end of the day. So that is, leading up to the next piece, which now also comes Lana's arch nemesis. Everybody's got to have an arch nemesis. And so this is the part where I got like emotional type of thing. With Lana's arch nemesis, her name is Jackie Shen, and her family owns the House of Shen, and they are also in the noodle contest. The problem with Jackie Shen is that she doesn't like Lana because Lana is mixed. Another thing that I wanted to touch on and showcase in my books is the real struggles of what it is to be mixed, because I do feel it's important. And like I said, a lot of people feel that part of it has not been represented a lot in pop culture. I definitely don't feel like it's been, and I didn't have that when I was a kid. So this is an added layer of it. Through it, you see the protectiveness of Kimmy Tran, excuse me, and you see the protectiveness of Megan as well. It's different for Kimmy because Kimmy is 100%. And, Lana is her best friend since she was young. To think that anybody would treat her in such a way, you really see Kimmy's protectiveness come out, which I loved to write that dynamic. It is a hard topic for me to talk about. So that is a real thing. If anybody's wondering about it, it is very real. There is racism of all kinds, and there is racism within races. It is not exclusive to Asian culture. When I worked at US Bank, I was very fortunate to be friends with a group of African American women that shared a lot of their experiences in regard to racism with me. I learned a lot from them. I felt that they were very open to talk to me about things, and I think that maybe it's because I'm mixed too, so that they were like, well, you get it, you understand, and I was curious. I always come from a place of curiosity because I'm very interested in culture, And I'm very interested in what other people have to say and their experiences, good or bad. So a lot of the women that I spoke with there would talk about racism within race. And that's when I really started to realize that it existed cross-culturally. But one of the things that I dealt with while I was growing up was racism within race. There are Asian people out there in the midst that don't like me because I'm mixed. And all I can say to that is how unfortunate for you that you are threatened by my diversity. It is what it is. I used to hate that saying, but I get it now. After going through cancer 3 times, you get it. So, I've also had, white people tell me that I'm not white enough, and that's a problem. It exists. I felt very isolated during certain parts of growing up because it was like I never fit. And I talked a lot about this in my other videos as well, of why I wrote Lana Lee the way that I did. She's a very Americanized Asian American. That's right. So, she can't speak the language, and she doesn't act how Asian women are supposed to act. Okay, and everybody knows the Asian stereotype: female, 5 steps behind the man, speaks quietly, don't create a fuss. It's something that has been in the Asian culture for a very long time. So I wanted to write that experience and show, that dynamics, show, here is this person that is Lana's arch nemesis who does not like her because she's mixed. And it opens a conversation, right? It opens a conversation of, wow, does that really happen? And then, well, what is that experience? And seeing how it affects the people around her, right? And it was difficult for me to write some of the scenes, as it is difficult for me to talk about now. Because I do think that it is a very unfortunate thing. I still experience it to this day. There are people who do not like me because I'm mixed. And again, I say how unfortunate for you. I resonate more thoroughly with my Asian side because I grew up with my mom. My parents are divorced, and they divorced when I was young. And I was brought up by my mom, and my sister is 100% Taiwanese. My dad and I were always very close. We still are. He's 100% Italian. And I had my grandmother from the Italian side. She was like my second mom, and this book is actually dedicated to her memory. But it was very different growing up with this, mixed household. My Italian side, we weren't very close. Like I said, it was me, my dad, and my grandma, and then our extended family. My dad is an only child. So we didn't spend a whole lot of time outside of our immediate family. It was like holidays, and every once in a while, we would go to my great aunt's house or something like that on my dad's side. But it was just regular. I don't know, nobody ever asked me to learn how to speak Italian. We ate spaghetti on Sundays. That was about it. There wasn't a lot of history. And I think that might be because our family was a little bit removed from Italy. So it would be my great grandparents had come from Italy to the United States. So my great great, because my great-grandmother, I believe, was born here, at least on my grandmother's side. If I could sit here and make you a tree, I would, but I have been an irresponsible family tree holder. But my mom is from Taiwan. And I think that that's what the difference was, is that the Italian side is a little bit removed. So my mom was very, she wanted me to be very Americanized, but at the same time, she did teach me a lot about the culture. We ate a lot of Asian food. She wanted me to try everything. My mom is a big proponent of, if you don't try it, how do you know you don't like it? She's never won that argument with chicken feet or fish eyes, I'll tell you that. So I think that what the difference was that, and my mom did, we watched Taiwanese soap operas, and she would take me to Taiwan when I was younger. And even though that stuff was sprinkled without, it was very important to her that I was Americanized. And so that's why there are these gaps. I think that people now are more accepting. I don't have the same experiences I had before. It was kind of like I was an outsider when I was growing up. There are still a handful of people who treat me different. It is very hard. I apologize. I'm pausing a lot, but it's very difficult for me to talk about because there's a lot of emotion tied up behind it. For the people who had said to me, well, you're not Asian enough. You're only 50%. You're only this, you're only that. Well, to you, I say, I was enough Asian for you to tease me when I was a kid. So when it is to my benefit, you don't like it anymore? I hold that in a lot because it's the truth. The same people who made fun of me for being Asian no longer counted me as Asian once I got my book series. Well, why would you write that? You're not that Asian. Well, I was. I was Asian when you called me names. So there's that. And this book, it touches on that lightly. I don't overdo it. It is meant to be lighthearted. As lighthearted as a topic like that can be, I should say, because it is something. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just be like make fun of it totally and there not be some truth to it. But I do poke fun. I always poke fun at stereotypes. I make Asian jokes about myself. And in this day and age, that is hard to do because people don't want to allow you to talk about yourself even, which I have a problem with. I will continue to do what I do, because I am me. Not everyone's going to like it. And that's a lesson that you have to learn, especially in the book industry. Not everyone is going to like what you have to say, but you have to be true to yourself and you have to say what you think is right, especially if it is something meaningful. I don't believe that you should just spout off at the mouth in the sense of fear and hatred. I'm completely against that, and I always will be. And people can call me a hippie for that if they want. I'm fine with it. Like, I call myself a hippie at this point. So that is where it is a big part of the book. For me, it is sprinkled throughout. You obviously, the main plot is always going to be the main plot. It's about finding the murderer. It's about solving the puzzle. So it's still, I don't want to give you the wrong impression to be like, this book is like heavy, because it's not. But it is heavy for me to speak about. Like, I can write it and I can edit it and I can say, something completely different. But when it comes out of my mouth, it is always going to be a little bit more emotional. That's why I prefaced it. So I wanted to show those real challenges of being diverse, mixed, racism within race, um, and the relationships, the dynamics. And again, from like what I said last week, is how the different pieces all work together, how different people respond. You will see characters change perspective based on their generation, based on if they were American born or not. So I needed this book, as weird as that sounds, but I needed it. And I needed Lana to be able to voice what I could not say in a more eloquent way at that time, because, like I said, this was in 2019. So I loved the book, and I loved writing it around a Noodle Shop contest, and in some ways it all meshes together because there's a competition happening, and Lana feels, unsure of herself in more ways than one. And she's got to accept those challenges and move forward with them, especially if she wants to solve the murder, right? So that's what she's got to do. So those were really my main points. I always try and keep a lighthearted sense in my stories. I don't ever want to put anything too heavy into my books, only because I would like my stories to be escapism for other people. So I will never truly touch deeply on things. I will mention them, I will poke fun at them, and I will sprinkle them. Because at the end of the day, when you read my books, at the end, I want you to sigh with relief. Like, this is what I do when I read a book that I really love, So I got my book, and I read it, and I'm reading the last page, and then I go, I love that book. Good job on the ending. That's what I want to do, you guys. That's what I want to do for every book. I never want you to walk away and be like, wow, that made me feel rough. Because enough of those books exist, I feel. I don't want, I want justice for everything. I want justice for the feelings behind what Lana's going through, and I want justice for the actual crime that's been committed. And so that's what I think about when I write my books, is how can I achieve those specific things. So this one's a little bit more of an emotional deep dive talk. I'm very tongue-tied today, is a thing. So I hope you enjoyed my ramble. And thank you for spending your time with me, and thank you for listening to everything that I have to say. I appreciate you guys so much. Before I go, I just want to say really quickly, because there is a lot going on my different avenues of social media. I have my Facebook, I have my Instagram, and I have my TikTok. I'm back on TikTok. And I say it like that is because I'm interested in a lot of different topics. I lean towards spiritual, the woo-woo side, and I do like things that are bizarre and unusual. So if you are one of those people, also, you might want to join my TikTok page, because we're going to talk about all kinds of weird stuff on there. Just to kind of give you an idea, like, I'm very into like quantum physics. I'm into like interdimensional talk, extraterrestrial life, all kinds of different like spiritual avenues as well. I got very into different aspects of meditation, Buddhism, like all of that stuff when I was going through my chemotherapy cancer journey. I'm really convinced that meditation saved my life. And some people may think that's a very strong comment and say, well, don't you think that the chemotherapy helped? And I will say yes. But I do think that. But I do also think that it is a very rough journey for anybody who is going through it right now. My heart goes out to you. But it is a very rough journey, and you need tools. And so those are the tools of the trade that I learned. And if you ever want to talk about any of those things or listen to what I have to say, my TikTok channel is where I talk about those specific things. You know, and Facebook and Instagram are more fun. You know, and I share a variety of things. I'm into crafts and, you know, I love going to new restaurants, stuff like that. So if you guys are interested, definitely check those out. Um, I'm kind of spreading myself out everywhere because I have readers that are like, I don't like Instagram, or I don't like Facebook, or I don't have a YouTube account, you know, and like some people are like, I will never step foot on TikTok, and hey, that's okay. So you can find me in all these different places, and I talk about different things. And I hope to talk about a lot more on this channel as well. So all of that stuff is coming. And I hope that you guys are having a really great day. It is beautiful. It is 74 degrees in CLE. I am feeling wonderful about it. And now I just have to get past the seasonal allergies part. But comment on this video, share your thoughts, subscribe. April 24th. April 24th is the deadline for this. So I will leave you with that. Also, if nobody told you today, my friends, you're looking smashing.